Panther throughout. Guys, we have to start with some breaking news, though, from the Jets. We'll get to the shirt, too. Go ahead, Adam. What's going on?
Well, Laura, Haason Reddick has informed the New York Jets that he wants to be traded. The Jets just traded for Reddick 4.5 months ago. He came in to take a physical, do his introductory press conference, at which time he said he was happy to be there. And that was the last we've seen and heard from Haason Reddick until today. Today he came out and said he wants to be traded. There's a contract stalemate. He's scheduled to make $14.25 million. And let me break it down for you this way. Essentially, he has been looking for that new contract to be paid like an elite pass rusher. The New York Jets haven't had any contract negotiations with him in recent months, and they've essentially said, we're not going to do a deal with you unless you're in the building. But he stayed away from minicamp. He stayed away from training camp. He hasn't shown up, and so there is the stalemate. He wants a deal. The Jets want him to show up, and earlier today, the Jets general manager, Joe Douglas, came out with a statement that said that the New York Jets will not trade Haason Reddick and that they expect him to essentially report to the team. So we have a stalemate. We have a player who essentially the team traded for and was banking on, who now has asked for his own trade. And here we go with the latest NFL training camp drama.
Man, Shefty, and you know what's so bad? This went from what I thought was one of the quietly best moves in the offseason for the New York Jets, especially playing in the AFC. When we know games in the fourth quarter, Haason Reddick is the difference maker. The second thing is this, though. When you think about Joe Douglas been through hell and back, man. And this is just one of those unfortunate situations, again, where you get a guy that is highly productive that you think is going to be available. And unfortunately for Aaron Rodgers, he was injured last year, so they couldn't make good on the fact that he wasn't there. I think the defense will still be fine. I'm not sending out any smoke signals, but Haason Reddick is a 15-plus sack a year guy. And when you start talking about Super Bowl aspirations, AFC championships, this trade was big, and this is huge that he may not be in camp with the Jets or even play this year.
Yeah, the defense will be fine without him, but the expectation is more than fine. The expectation is Super Bowl caliber defense. And I think what's notable, particularly with the Jets, Marcus, is they don't blitz. They blitz at the second lowest rate in the NFL. They're so dependent on that four-man rush getting home. And while you've got Quinn Williams in the middle, who's an absolute superstar, if Haason Reddick isn't in that lineup, you're leaning on Jermaine Johnson, who I thought was good last year, but he's going to have to be great. Will McDonald, their first-round draft pick a couple years ago, is going to have to be great. So much depends on Reddick being there for this defense to be, not just to be as good as we thought they were, but to play the style of football that they've played under Robert Saleh, where they don't blitz. To me, it's a little bit surprising that to hear not just that a deal hasn't been done, but that there haven't been talks, because they knew when they traded for him that he wanted a new contract. So I'm a little bit surprised, frankly, to hear this news, even if he ends up staying in New York.
Yeah, don't forget, Bryce Huff, who was arguably their best edge guy, went to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So they don't really have an edge rusher. And I'm a little bit more with Mina, Marcus. Like, I don't think – I've played against these defenses that are predicated on this four-man rush and zone coverage behind. If you don't have an edge rusher that we, as an offensive person, is scared of, we're okay. The internal guys, Quinnen, I respect them, absolutely. But the edge rusher on those third downs with that interior push guy, like Reddick was supposed to be that person with the loss of Huff. If they don't have him, this defense takes a significant hit unless one of those other guys takes that big jump forward.
And I think, Dan, it really starts with Bryce Huff, because Bryce Huff was with the Jets last year. We get to free agency and Bryce Huff goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles recognized there was a contractual issue with Haason Reddick, who turns 30 years old in September. And rather than pay him now, they opted to pay a younger player from the Jets. Jets had a hole. So the Jets go and trade for Haason Reddick. Now, at the time, the Jets thought that Reddick was okay with talking about a deal initially, but that if he didn't get one, he still would report. That's how he sounded. But Haason Reddick would be of the mind that the Jets haven't come to him with any offers really since they traded for him. And so now we have this stalemate and this big misunderstanding, this big miscommunication, this big issue that is essentially on the Jets' doorstep that they have to handle now as the season is rapidly approaching.
Yeah, and Adam, as you pointed out a couple times as we were following this story, the Jets felt like Reddick should report or at least be on their premise before they were going to actually talk to him. He didn't do that. He didn't want to do that. So we're going to get back to it. All right, we got to get to some action from yesterday. Let's